Hello YouTubers and welcome. Today's video was necessary because I got the dreaded check engine light shown here. I took the car to my local auto box store and the code that the computer was throwing was a P0128. Let's examine what that code means and how I fixed it. Stick around. Now reading this description makes one suspicious of a bad thermostat, but I had noticed no variance in my engine temperature as of late, nor in my heating or defroster temp. Note that one of the possible causes is a faulty temp sensor. In the case of this vehicle, the sensor and thermostat are located inside the same housing, so we might as well order both. This is the new housing, which includes the thermostat and temperature sensor. It also ships with a new gasket. Shown here is the new thermostat, recognizable by the spring underneath. Rotating the housing reveals the temperature sensor. This unit also ships with the upper radiator hose clip already installed. You do not need to remove this clip, but if you were to, note how the side of the clip fits into these notches on the side of the housing. It's not unusual for Mercedes to require certain specialized tools. I knew I would need so-called E-Torx sockets for this job, so rather than cherry pick and order a couple of them, I went ahead and ordered this set instead. These were inexpensive and included 5 1/4 inch, 5 3/8 inch, and 4 1/2 inch sockets of varying sizes. The need for these sockets arises out of the shape of the bolt head. Note how the splines get progressively wider. Here is yet another shot of that same type of bolt head. Since my purchase, I've read many reviews from mechanics who appreciate the thickness of the walls of these types of sockets. With over 134,000 miles on my vehicle, I've never replaced the Serpentine Belt. Some of you may have landed here in hopes of seeing that belt replaced, and we're going to take care of that since we'll need to remove it anyways for the thermostat and sensor replacement. This is a Dayco ribbed brand, and replacement is recommended on or before 100,000 miles. Let's begin by showing you the front and rear splash shields found underneath the vehicle. These will need to be removed because we need to drain the coolant. They fit together with these overlapping tabs. Now between the two shields, I'll remove these 12 bolts. The rear shield overlaps the front and must be removed first, but some folks claim you can just remove these 4 in the center, pull down the edge of the front, then remove the remainder of the bolts to drop the front shield only. Here at Pilot View Productions, equipment budgeting is limited. Try not to be overly impressed with my camera dolly system used for these shots. Now let's remove those splash shields. The rear shield is removed, and then the front. For purposes of reassembly, note how the front edge of the front shield hooks on top of this bumper area illustrated in red. Shown here is the petcock we will soon turn open to drain the coolant. Note the alignment marks nearby. We will be turning the petcock counterclockwise. This is the coolant drain pipe. Take care and slowly open the lid from the coolant recovery and fill tank. This will release vacuum and cause the coolant to more easily flow in the next step. If you wish, you may gather these materials to allow the coolant to drain into a recovery pan. Personally, I chose to eliminate the hose. Open the petcock by turning counterclockwise and using slip joint pliers. Usually one full turn is enough. While the coolant is draining, remove the top front engine cover by pulling straight up. The cover is held down by these clips. Although some videos show it, there is no need to remove the rear cover. Next, the two rubber hoses are removed from the secondary air pump. Take note before removal of the serpentine belt of its configuration around the pulleys and accessories. My advice is to actually sketch out the pattern similar to what I've done here. You'll be glad you did later on. Easier access to our replacement parts can be gained by removing the left and right side air intake hoses. Should the hose pull loose from the receptacle, simply replace it. Begin the upper radiator hose removal by pulling this clip off the thermostat housing shown earlier. You may use pliers or a flat-bladed screwdriver. In case you wish to reinstall this for some reason, note how the tips of the clip are bent 90 degrees. I can't stress enough how thin the collar is on this hose connection. My advice is not to remove this hose in the manner that I did, as I ended up having to straighten the bends in the collar that I caused. The service manual recommends you replace this gasket with every removal, but I didn't. Now on to the serpentine belt removal. Locate the idler pulley bolt here. Grab your gloves and a long breaker bar or equivalent and place the socket on the pulley bolt and turn counterclockwise. You will see the belt being loosened and feel a springed resistance. Using your gloved hand, remove the belt from the idler pulley and from all other pulleys and accessories. Your model may have a cover over this pulley bolt that will need to first be removed, but grab your appropriately sized E-Torx socket and remove this bolt. This pulley is conservatively priced and many users recommend replacement at belt replacement time. Turning our attention to this dirty temperature sensor plug, I want to show you how it is removed by first showing you a demonstration with the plug cleaned and already removed. The gray lock pin is pulled slightly forward, then that same gray pin is pressed downward. Should you happen to pull too hard, the locking pin may slide all the way out. If that occurs, you will need to take a flat-bladed screwdriver and press down on this area I highlighted in red to remove the plug. The locking pin may be reinstalled as follows. Again, to remove, slide the locking pin slightly forward and press it down as you pull the plug from the sensor. Route the sensor wire up out of your way. This top bolt on the secondary air pump will need to be removed. Some claim the entire pump needs to come off, but I found that once I removed the top bolt and loosened the two bolts that I will show underneath, that I could shift the air pump to the left just enough to access the top thermostat bolt. note the amount of play. Press the air pump to the left and access and loosen the top thermostat bolt. You may misconstrue the location of the bottom bolt as the one most prominently shown here. It even fooled me, but the bottom thermostat bolt is hidden slightly higher up. A comparison shows both top and bottom bolts are the same length. Using the soft rubber heel of my socket wrench and a rubber mallet, I lightly tap on the thermostat to break it loose and remove it. Laying the new thermostat beside the old and rotating each, we can see that the new one is an exact match. The coolant residue is cleaned and dried. Now hopefully most of the thermostat gasket came off with the old thermostat, but here you can see leftover gasket material that needs to be cleaned before installation of the new thermostat to ensure a tight fit. I plugged the hole with a shop rag to keep out residue and cleaned with a wire brush. While grasping the gasket, set the new thermostat in place, aligning the bolt holes. Alternate the tightening of the bolts. Torque the bolts to the following specifications. Reattach the temperature sensor plug in the fashion shown earlier. Insert and tighten the upper bolt on the secondary air pump and torque all bolts to the following specifications. Reattach the pulley underneath the thermostat housing like this. Reattach the larger of the two rubber hoses from the secondary air pump. Then reattach the smaller of the two hoses like this. One rudimentary way of checking the length of your new serpentine belt against the old is to loop both belts around the toe of your shoe and stretch upwards. Begin reinstallation of the belt by using your diagram and looping the belt around all parts except the idler wheel. Retract the idler wheel spring and with a gloved hand slip on the belt. Keep in mind that most of these pulleys and accessories have grooves into which the grooves in the belt fit. I don't like the looks of this one, so let me show you another angle. This is what I'm seeing, and it needs to be fixed before cranking the engine. After retracting the idler wheel spring, the belt is pressed into place. Did you hear it click? I had to do this on 3 separate pulleys to properly seat the belt. Now you shouldn't need to do this step on your new thermostat housing, but just in case you removed the upper hose hold-down clip, reinstall it like this. As mentioned earlier, I did not replace the upper radiator hose gasket, so I'm just going to apply a thin layer of petroleum jelly prior to reinstallation to keep the gasket pliable and to hopefully prevent dry rot and to lubricate for easier insertion. Ooh. Now, with the hold down clip already in place, just press in on the hose until the collar clicks behind the clip. I had removed this auxiliary hose for videoing, and I now reclip it in place. Reinstall the left and right side air intake hoses. Check your owner's manual for suggested coolant types and capacity. My specs showed that I needed close to 2 gallons, but it turned out I only needed 1. Pour the coolant slowly into the coolant recovery and fill tank until it reaches the max capacity level. Start your vehicle and set the heater for maximum heat and blower. This will open the thermostat, allowing the coolant level to drop. After the engine runs for a few minutes, recheck your coolant level and add as necessary. Clip the front engine cover back in place. The front splash shield has been cleaned and spray painted, so let's reattach it. Remember to hang the front edge under the bumper lip as illustrated during removal. Hook the 2 plastic tabs from the rear splash shield into place, then reattach it. Full disclosure, I had to drive the vehicle about 200 miles before the check engine light went out. This may have been due to a trapped bubble in the coolant system. Recheck your levels after driving several miles and add coolant as necessary. Thanks for viewing, and please consider subscribing, and this job is complete.